I've done a big research study where I looked at Google Translate across all its languages. This is the only study that's been done that compares Google Translate across all its languages. And people like to knock Google Translate because the results you get can be rather suspicious, so for good reason. But then people often say, but DeepL is better. I can't tell you how many times I've heard this. So I've looked into it. I haven't done a systematic comparison because that would be a very complicated study, and I've got too many other things to do. But I have done a lot of side-by-side comparison, and the first thing I can tell you is that part of the reason people think DeepL is better than Google is because DeepL claims they're better than Google, but they don't actually back that up with published studies. They put some deceptive graphs on their site and say, yeah, well, in certain circumstances, with certain languages, with certain sentences, we got better results. That's not science. So in this video, let's translate a simple text that has a fairly formal vocabulary and structure, which is what both DeepL and Google are trained on, so that we can do a small comparison and see, is one better than the other? Are we getting similar things? Did they both make similar mistakes? Let's give it a look. What I've done is I needed to send a very short email to my eye doctor's secretary. Hopefully sometime in the next few months, I'll have a fourth surgery for my eye, and I needed to sign a new consent form, scan it, send it back to them, and just let her know that I was doing that. There was nothing super critical in the message, and she already knew what was coming her way, so she would be able to interpret it even if I make some mistakes, but it would be nice to get it right. So you can see the original English I wrote. Hello, I'm attaching the scanned copy of my consent for surgery. I will put the original in the post as well. I look forward to scheduling the surgery for the earliest convenient date. Thank you. Now I translated this into French, and there were a few interesting things that came out even in this very short text. I should say that I've done this a few times because I had some problems with the first recording, and I'm getting slightly different results on the French side even though the English is identical. So the performance even within one system is sometimes variable from minute to minute. I can see though that the important things are still coming through. So the first one is, first sentences are pretty much the same. The second sentence is different. Je mettrai également l'original dans le courrier is, I'll put also the original in the mail. On the Google side, I will put also the original in the message. In the message? In the post. Okay, so what it's doing is it's interpreting post as a message, putting it on in a post on your wall on Facebook or on Twitter. Here we had a 50-50, and DeepL got the right one and Google got the wrong one. What they've done for I look forward to is they each gave different versions of I look forward to, but equally valid. Now, let's see, on the Google side, thank you, merci. Okay, that's great. Short, sweet, to the point. How about DeepL? Thank you. Je vous remercie de votre attention. Je vous prie d'agréer, Madame Mesure, mes salutations distinguées. Sorry for the pronunciation. What sort of hallucination is this? What they've done is, the French can have a lot of elaborate closings to a letter, and they've put in as elaborate a closing as they can. But DeepL has decided they're going to go way beyond what I've indicated with thank you. And they've even gone Madame Mesure, so the response is as though I don't know the gender of the person to whom I'm writing, and that this is a very formal letter. All I've done is said thank you, and it's quite common in French emails to just say merci, or maybe je vous remercie, but this is certainly not the first time that I've seen this. And another weird thing here in DeepL is if I do thank you and then I type the comma, it changes thank you to je vous remercie de votre attention. So no comma, comma. Okay, so I would say that that's a definite loss for DeepL. So now in the comparison of the two, let's look at another language. So I'm interested in knowing whether this interpretation of in the post carries through to other languages. So I'm going to go to Swahili. I don't expect that you'll know Swahili, and we won't look at the other parts, which will get you by. I have certain problems with the rest of the Swahili translation, but we won't go into them. We can see here, though, in this sentence, nitakuweka asili kwenye chapisho pia. Okay, so what's going on here is they got the word origin, asili, but then they've gone with chapisho, which is publication. So somehow I'll put original with publication also. Yeah, nobody's going to understand that. But publication, post, okay, somehow that's the thread they're following. Let's try this out in DeepL. DeepL doesn't have Swahili at all. Google works with many more languages than DeepL, so if you want any of those other languages, you've got to go with Google. Whether or not you're getting usable results, and in my testing, a lot of the languages that don't have a lot of investment in research on them, the results are really sketchy, and you would be advised to pour a lot of salt on what you get. Is it better that Google has them and so you can get something? Or is it better on the DeepL side that they don't have those languages, and therefore you're going to get something that's a bucket of words and doesn't really give much of the meaning that you're trying to convey? Okay, let's look at Romanian, which is a language that is in both, and I have some ability to read a bit of. We see here, first sentence is basically the same. DeepL decided to put the subject in. Google made probably a valid decision to leave the subject implied. Otherwise, those sentences are identical and both look right. The second sentence, in this case, actually the second sentences are identical and seem to be talking about the postal mail. In this case, Google flipped the coin and got post office rather than direct message. Okay, now on the third sentence, DeepL is saying on the date, the most appropriate date, whereas Google is coming up with the earliest date. And what I meant is the earliest date. So Google here, they flipped the coin right, and DeepL flipped the coin wrong. And they both gave acceptable forms of thank you. How about Spanish? Spanish, my reading knowledge is not so wonderful, but we'll see what we can do. Okay, clearly Google got this wrong. En la publicación. Well, I'll also put the original in the publication. Okay, whereas DeepL has gotten this version of post consistently correct. Para la fecha más próxima posible. Para la fecha conveniente más temprana. They're both getting the sense that I want something the earliest, but here DeepL for some reason has left out convenient. Maybe my idea of a convenient date doesn't translate well into Spanish. Or maybe DeepL is just making another decision on my behalf. I don't know. Muchas gracias on DeepL. Gracias. The comma doesn't make any difference over there. Does the comma make any difference over there? Nope. But there's one way where DeepL clearly is superior if you know your target language as well as your source language, because you can tweak a lot better on DeepL. So for this, I'll go back into French. Here you can see on Google Translate, you can't make any changes on their suggestions for you. In DeepL, you can make changes. So for example, here it says mon consentement à l'intervention chirurgicale. And then again, it repeats for surgery, it repeats l'intervention chirurgicale. I don't really like that. I would rather say it differently in the second paragraph. So what I'm going to be able to do here is change that because it gives me options. So here I've just changed that one to the surgery. And for example, if I wanted to use a different word for post for the mail, I could change for le poste. I could say I'll put it in at the post office, which sounds better to my ears. I don't know how it sounds to a French person's ears. They're also giving the option here, the message, so I can also be putting it in the message. And let's see what else they have. In le dossier, le document, the package, in the formula, the body, the bulletin. Ooh, lots of different things. Interestingly, one option that is not coming up is I can't put it in the post as in a post in the ground. I would have to tweak very hard to try to get the post in the ground. On the English side, if you have a sentence that has post in the ground in a context that relates to other things they have in their source material, they do both pick that up. But the important point here is that if you know enough of the target language to know whether you're getting something that you like or not, then you can go back and forth on both sides on DeepL and only one side on Google. So in that sense, DeepL really is the superior option. On the other hand, what about language like, let's say, Russian? Now, I don't speak any Russian. So if I put these guys into Russian, I see that they have similar looking characters. I don't know. I can see that the second sentence has different words entirely. So probably based on what they've done in the other languages, it's likely that Google has done something with message, but really your guess is as good as mine as to which of these is better. Let's try it with Chinese. Okay, I have no Chinese. I can see that there's a difference in how it's in the thank yous. I am not going to closely inspect all of those characters. I can see they're using different characters that both end with the same character on that one line. Who knows what's going on here? Obviously, a Chinese speaker knows, but I'm not a Chinese speaker, so if I'm going to send this to somebody who speaks Chinese, I'm really rolling the dice here, right? So what I'm going to do if I use either of these services, or Bing or Systram, they're all using similar processes. So you may get the same or different results from all of them, but there have been no studies that really systematically compare any of these services in most of their languages. In any case, if I'm going to send somebody a translation that I get from one of these services, even in French, but especially in a language that I really don't know, I'll quite often put a disclaimer saying this was translated by X machine translation service, and also put in my original English so that the person can see what I wrote. And if they have any understanding of English, they can go through and look at the text. That's not guaranteed. That's why we use translation services, right? So we can jump over those barriers, but be really cautious. Now, one last thing. Let's go back to the French. At the beginning, I said that this text will relate to the sort of formal situations on which DeepL and Google are trained. But let's see what happens if we make it a little less formal. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change that word put to pop. I will pop the original in the post. I will, on Google, pop the original in the post. Okay, so Google actually left it just the same. Pop is put. In this case, they figured it out from the context. DeepL went with je joindrai. I will attach the original to the mail, or I will enclose the original in the mail. So now DeepL has actually, by just changing the register a little bit, going a little more casual, pop not put, we went outside of their comfort zone with what they've been trained on. So here we are, one sentence in a 3-sentence email, and going to the sort of translation that you might do in, say, a WhatsApp chat or sending an SMS or something. DeepL in this case, but Google Translate in other cases, both of them in some cases, neither of them in other cases, really can't handle it. So there's a little demonstration. You can see that the common perception that DeepL is better than Google is largely based on people wanting to feel that they have the inside track on something that's better than Google. You don't really, other than the ability to tweak on the target side. You're really looking at two very similar systems based on similar data sets, based on similar models. My advice is use them both, use them with caution, and if you're sending a message to somebody else, let them know that you've used machine translation so that they can read it with this eye that what they're getting is an approximation, not a real translation. With neither DeepL nor Google Translate are you ever going to send a translation that you can be really confident conveys the full meaning of what you intend. Use them cautiously. Use DeepL more often if you know enough about the language that you're translating into, and good luck. In the week since I filmed the Roadtest, I got a little bit of news. The letter that I wrote with the help of the translation tools served in getting an appointment set for the next surgery. We have to do a go, no-go test the week earlier, but 17th of August. Wish me luck. The other thing I didn't mention while testing DeepL and Google is that tools that we're working on in Kamusi Lab achieve some translation results in demonstrably better fashion. In fact, one of the main things I've been doing this week has been working with a student to finalize a tool that translates conjugated verbs between languages in a way that DeepL, Google really just can't handle. But that will be the subject for another video. So until next time, please be sure you're subscribed to the Pirate Professor channel, and I thank you for watching.